Every country dependent on foreign oil is looking for a way out. For India, the proposed exit was a massive pivot to homegrown ethanol. The logic was rooted in the trade balance. This diagram shows India's $137 billion oil import bill. By mandating that all petrol contain a 20% ethanol blend, known as E20, the government aimed to keep $28 billion of that wealth within the country. Domestic production promised more than just savings. The strategy was designed to lower national carbon emissions and redirect energy profits to local farmers, who would provide the raw crops for the fuel. To realize these gains sooner, the government moved aggressively. They took a rollout deadline originally set for 2030 and compressed it, aiming for full implementation by 2025. While the government hit the technical targets 5 years early, the public response was immediate and hostile. Drivers across the country began reporting engine failures and rising maintenance costs, with many labeling the early rollout a scam. Ethanol blending is a proven global practice, used everywhere from Brazil to the United States. The question is how a policy designed to save billions triggered a systemic meltdown across India's automotive and agricultural industries. The friction begins with a chemical property called calorific value. This chart compares the energy density of the two fuels. 1 liter of petrol delivers 32 megajoules of energy, while a liter of ethanol yields only 21.1 megajoules. Because ethanol contains 34 in cars not designed for high blends, this moisture cracks rubber pipes, hardens seals, and eventually destroys fuel pumps. Automakers can build engines to resist this corrosion, but it requires significant hardware changes. Manufacturers stated they needed at least 4 years to re-engineer their production lines, a preparation window that was lost when the national deadline was moved forward. Drivers now face a financial trap. Because fixed taxes on petrol remain high, the price at the pump hasn't fallen to reflect the lower energy content. Consumers are paying the same price for a fuel that takes them 7% less distance. The mechanical risk is compounded by an insurance crisis. Major insurers have begun denying claims for engine damage caused by E20 fuel in older cars, citing gross negligence for using the incorrect fuel type. The accelerated mandate bypassed the necessary engineering lead time, leaving citizens to pay for the resulting mechanical damage and lost mileage out of their own pockets. As the automotive sector struggled, the pressure of the E20 mandate shifted toward India's farms to meet the sudden, massive demand for fuel-grade crops. Farmers found they could earn higher prices by selling maize and rice directly to ethanol distilleries rather than to traditional food markets. The government's rush for fuel created a more profitable alternative to feeding the population. This market distortion had an immediate impact on the food supply. By 2023, so much grain had been diverted to fuel production that India suffered a 5 million ton shortfall in domestic maize. The result was a total reversal of India's trade status. This chart tracks the sudden need for foreign grain. A country that once exported maize to its neighbors was forced to import nearly 1 million tons in a single year, a 7,940% increase. The environmental cost is equally high. 1 liter of maize-based ethanol requires over 4,600 liters of water. In states like Maharashtra and Karnataka, where groundwater is already depleted, this demand places an immense strain on local resources. In cities like Bangalore, where water is already being rationed, diverting billions of liters to fuel crops creates a direct competition between the gas tank and the tap. By moving too fast, the policy has turned an energy strategy into a threat to the national food and water supply. Brazil demonstrates that these issues are not inherent to the fuel. Their widespread ethanol infrastructure, where alcohol is available at nearly every station, shows that a high blend economy is possible. Brazil achieved this by scaling up over 40 years, moving gradually from a 10% blend in the 1970s to 27% today. This 4-decade runway gave their automotive industry the time to develop flex fuel engines that can handle any mixture. Flex fuel engines allow drivers to choose their fuel based on the daily price at the pump. This competition forces ethanol producers to keep their prices lower than petrol to attract customers, ensuring the fuel remains an economic benefit for the driver. For India to fix its supply chain, it must pivot from 1G ethanol made from food to 2G ethanol made from waste. This involves processing agricultural leftovers, like the straw and husks shown here, into fuel. Using agricultural waste removes the conflict between the fuel tank and the food market. It utilizes material that would otherwise be burned in the fields, creating a sustainable energy source that doesn't drive up the price of grain or deplete extra water. Achieving this requires reverting the E20 mandate to the original 2030 timeline. This extra 5 years would allow manufacturers to deploy flex fuel technology and give farmers the time to transition toward waste-based production. Successful national policy is a matter of timing and ecosystem engineering. Forcing a structural shift before the system can support it destroys public trust, the one resource a government cannot afford to exhaust.